Hey everybody, I want to give you guys a quick sermon recap. We talked about betrayal this week, and that's a difficult topic, but Jesus was betrayed, but so was Paul. Acts chapter 13, John Mark leaves him. Paul feels betrayed, and when it came time for the second round of going out on a missionary trip, Barnabas wanted to take John Mark. Paul says, no way, I'm not going to take somebody who deserted us. And so we talked about betrayal, and all of us, we experience that, we feel that from time to time. So what do we do about betrayal? And here's 4 quick thoughts. Number 1, you got to make peace priority number 1. And the quickest way, or maybe I could just say the healthiest way to begin to process and to move out of hurt into healing is to make sure that I'm clean before God and before other people. And so to make peace, as much as it depends on you, live at peace. Not even about fixing the problem at this point, not about setting things right or getting your side of the story or whatever, trying to get even. It's about making sure my heart's right. And so Jesus went through this. Even while Jesus was being betrayed in the garden, he brings healing to the soldier that Peter cut the ear off of the guy. And so this process of making sure our heart is right and clean before God. Number 2 is to reset the 10. We talked about everybody, should have a 10 on their forehead when we see them, meaning 1 through 10, 10 being the best. And as soon as we can, because people are going to do stuff to knock that number down where they're like a 2. But as soon as we are able to reset the 10 on people, or maybe as we go into new situations, don't take, the number from the past situation and overlay it on the new. See, a lot of us, we start off because of hurt that's happened in the past. We don't give everybody a 10 that we meet, a new person. We start them off as a 2, and it's like they have to earn the 10. But the Bible talks about believing the best. And so I would rather live surprised rather than paranoid. And so that really leads us to the next thing, which is to be aware of your 20. What do I mean by that? Well, we talked about the college professor who said, he got up in front of his class, he said, 20% of what I'm going to tell you today is wrong. The problem is I don't know which 20%. Why? Because we all think we're right 100% of the time. And later on, we find out that there was a portion of it that wasn't exactly right, but we just couldn't see it at the time. Well, we all have those things. And so that allows us just to give grace in relationships. And as we look at the story of Paul, Barnabas, and John Mark, you really have to step back and wonder, as I did this week as I was studying, we think about Paul being the one that was betrayed by John Mark, but what if it was Barnabas that was betrayed by Paul? Because Barnabas is the one that took Paul under his wing when no one else would. Barnabas is the one that took a chance on Paul when no one else would. And you have to imagine Barnabas in that moment where he's talking to Paul, and Paul says, no, I'm not going to take John Mark. I'm not going to take a chance on this guy again. And Barnabas probably felt betrayed by Paul in that moment. And so sometimes the answer and who's right and wrong seems clear on the surface, and sometimes it's a little more complicated than that. And so we have to give grace in relationships. And so make peace a priority number 1, and then reset the 10, be aware of your 20, and then finally give God your 100. The temptation that we have whenever we've been hurt is what we once used to give it all to God. We now say, I'm going to give everything to God except for this one part of my life that I'm going to try to protect and try to essentially be Lord of. Like, I'm not going to live like that again. I'm not going to love like that again. I'm not going to give like that again because I've been hurt, and we essentially become Lord over our own life in that area. And your biggest weapon against the hurt of betrayal is communion with God. And so we have to go back to God and say, God, I'm giving you my 100%. And as we do these things, remember, this message is not to be judged on how simple it is, but on how much of it we're actually doing. And I believe as we walk through this process, as you give God your 100%, will you get hurt again? Absolutely you will. But I would rather trust my hurt in the hands of a Father who heals the brokenhearted than trusting me trying to protect a certain part of my life and being Lord over my life without God. And if we do these things, I believe that we're on the path to healing, and that we can look at other people, we can reset the 10, and that we can walk in love towards other people. And so I hope that blessed you. I hope you're ministered to by it, but I hope that you were transformed by hearing the word of God this week.